Welcome you back to the Patrick Netherton Show, 1130 The Tiger. I'm Patrick Netherton. He's Rogers Hampton. Hope you are doing well. We're just trying to muddle through as best we can. You know, there is a hierarchy of athletic directors that I like and respect, and several of them around the Southland Conference up there. Obviously, Greg Burke is number one with a bullet. You know, no one can replace Greg Burke, Northwestern State Athletic Director, not the least of which is that he signs my contract every year and signs my paycheck, you know, not to mention the fact that he's a good friend and a good man in general. But one of the guys that I've been really delighted to get to know over the course of the last several years within the conference is Brad Teague, the athletic director at Central Arkansas, who I believe is doing a wonderful job. They've been a great addition to the league. And so I find this interesting. I think this is going to be kind of a fun conversation because UCA is trying to do something that is somewhat unprecedented with what's going on with COVID. So, Brad, before everything else, how are you? How's your family? Everyone doing okay?
Hey, Patrick, thank you for having me on. Yeah, we're doing well. Everybody is fine, and I appreciate you asking. And I was, as you were talking about Greg, everything you said is true. He does pay you. You have to say that.
Yes,
so,
exactly.
And regarding me, you haven't met all the ADs in the conference, so I'm easy to be second right now.
Well, well, to be honest with you, I've met some of them, and they definitely aren't going to be anywhere in the top five. But I'm not going to obviously name names. That wouldn't be good for me. Okay, so you know the dominoes are starting to fall. Things are starting to cascade. We're seeing leagues around, you know, Division III cancels its championships and they punt to spring. Division II follows suit. We're seeing FCS leagues starting to move in that direction. As that momentum was building and it looked like we were going to hit that part where the more than 50% were not going to participate, meaning you couldn't hold a fall FCS football championship in the fall. Walk me through what the decisions were within, your president, your administration, Nathan Brown, your head coach. What were the discussions like as you decided on what you wanted to try to do in the fall when all of these dominoes were starting to fall?
Yeah, Patrick, I mean, there was so much information coming every day, and, there were dominoes falling, and we wanted to hang on. We hoped we could hang on, and for now we have, but we just thought it was in the best interest of our student athletes. It's kind of ironic to say for their health and safety to play in the fall and not in the spring. And this is why, first of all, I don't know what COVID will be different in the spring versus what it is now. But secondly, I can't understand how a football player is going to play some in the fall, a modified schedule in the spring, and then a full schedule in the next fall. And that just didn't make sense to us. Plus, we have 10 seniors who will graduate in December. We have several NFL prospects that would not participate in the spring, so it wouldn't be the same team. And as we talked more about it, we thought, if we can do it now, and we're fortunate that we have a great partnership with our hospital to do the testing, if we can do it now, let's try it, and let's go as long as we can. And it may be one game, and it may be 11 games, but let's go as long as we can and try to give a normal experience to these fall football players and in the other sports as well. We've got volleyball and men's and women's soccer who will participate also. So we're just moving ahead, and hopefully it's going to work out. It may not, but we'll pivot if we have to, if the virus makes us do that. Otherwise, we want to play a full schedule this fall.
Well, you mentioned the partnership with your hospital, and I think that's maybe one of the unique set of circumstances that puts you in this position. Am I wrong to say that, in that you're going to be able to have more affordable testing than a lot of your conference brethren would?
That is true. No, we have been very fortunate with our partnership with the Conway Regional Hospital that we can have access to the testing, that we can get the results back in 36 to 48 hours, and that it's not cost prohibitive for us. So there are many, many programs that cannot do that, even some FBS programs that just can't figure it out, and you've seen them as they have fallen. So we're proud that we're able to do it. Unfortunately, there's not a lot of FCS programs out there to play, so scheduling's been quite interesting, but there are a lot of FBS programs. We could probably, Patrick, play 11 road games in the FBS this year if we wanted to do that, which we do not.
Well, and that kind of leads into my next question is scheduling, right? Because the Southland basically said, we're not having a conference season, but if you want to go play your non-conference games in the fall, we're not going to stop you from doing that. Go have at it. I know some of the Texas schools are doing that, and not necessarily trying to go for a full schedule. They're just playing a couple of non-conference games in the fall. Some of them are like you, trying to field a full schedule. What's that like, trying to say, hey, we're going to play 11 games, but you've got no conference games to fall back on, and you don't, like you said, want to play 11 road FBS games?
Yeah, so it has been tough. So what we found out is the FCS programs who are not in our conference, who do want to play, we're doing home and homes with them in the same season. So you can tack on some games pretty quickly when you're doubling up on a team. So we've got a couple of those scheduled right now. We may get another one, and then we have 3 FBS programs scheduled, and we're going to release that schedule in the morning at 10 a.m. So it will be out there. So it will show you that we'll have about 2 home games and 7 road games, I think, is where we are right now.
Tell me about that, because it varies at different levels on who is sort of in charge of the football schedule. It's interesting in a lot of ways, because it seems like basketball coaches are sort of in charge of their schedule, but football coaches, by and large, the administration does their scheduling for them. So walk me through the conversations you have with your head coach, Nathan Brown, on, hey, here's what we're looking at, this home game, this road game. What are your conversations like with him?
It's pretty interesting. So you're right. We talk daily, and if not many times a day, and he said no to nothing I've said to him. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's willing to play anyone, anywhere, anytime, and that makes it a lot easier when you can do that. So our conversations are, okay, we have this opportunity on this date with this team. Which one would you prefer if it works out? Dates are important, and then who the matchup is important as well. But then at the end of the day, you just kind of got to go with what works on your date. So sometimes maybe it's not the matchup you wanted, but again, he's willing to play anyone.
So any real sexy FBS school you want to break here before your schedule release tomorrow at 10 a.m.? You want to tell us that you've got some big game in the works that Brett McMurphy this thing?
No Power Fives, of course, will play outside of their own conference. I guess the Big 12 will play a couple, but we don't have any Power Fives. And we've already released that we're playing Arkansas State on September 19th. Other than that, I cannot. I can't reveal it before 10 a.m. I'm sorry.
Oh man, the worst. We're talking to Brad Teague, athletic director for Central Arkansas. Okay, so do you have? And this is one of the things I've heard a lot, is sort of the nebulous idea of what needs to occur for something to change. And there's not all right, if we get 20 kids with COVID, we're shutting it down, or if we get there doesn't seem to be an actual guideline for what causes change. Do you have in your mind, or does your administration have in mind, a certain level where you go, okay, this is when we've got to really, really think about cutting this off? Or is that just we'll know it when we see it kind of thing?
Yeah, I guess it's more of the latter. Like everything with this virus, we're kind of, by the seat of our pants with what we're doing. And other than having our great protocols in place, we know that there's going to be some positive cases at some point. What is our threshold? I don't know right now. It depends on the contact tracing and how many that takes out as well, and then how much we have room capacity for isolation and quarantining of our students. And so far, we've had some positives throughout all of our programs, and they've all been asymptomatic. So that's only a 10-day isolation versus symptomatic is 14 days. So it's interesting to see, and as hopefully they'll all continue to be asymptomatic if they're positive, and we'll just have to see how many it takes for us to pause.
Athletic Director at Central Arkansas, Brad Teague, joining us. So my big issue, and obviously I work in college athletics, sort of not as closely as you do within a program, but I know these kids, and my major issue has been that if you want to play in the NFL or the NBA or the NHL or MLB, whatever, fine. You're being paid, and the players have a voice in what they're doing. Whereas on the college side, we have to have faith that the administration really cares about their students. And I know you do. I know Greg Burke does. But I don't know that everyone does. What are the assurances that you can have for players' families, just for maybe fans, that makes everyone understand that you have the best interest of the kids at heart, and it's not just, hey, we're going to do this because, we need a check from this game or that game.
Sure. Well, yeah. First and foremost, I've gone and visited with every single sport team that plays in the fall, just to talk about our protocols, talk about our procedures, making sure they feel comfortable, answer any questions they have. And and then let them know also that they have the opportunity to not play, and that would not affect their scholarship at all, and they would not lose a year of eligibility potentially. And I think the NCAA will vote it that way.
Sure.
So they have that opportunity, and we've had 0 want to opt out, and everybody tells us they want to push forward and play a fall schedule. So that's really kind of been my motivation, is our student athletes want to play, and I want to support them and do everything I can to make that happen for them.
I know you're one of those ADs, much like Greg, who has a very open door policy when it comes to your student athletes. If they want to come in and voice a concern, your door is always open for them to come in and voice a concern. Have you just mentioned that, the players have by and large just said, hey, let's push through and let's keep going. But have you fielded any folks that have had some tough questions for you, or things that they are really concerned about that they need answered before they're willing to go on and move forward?
We haven't had any of that. I mean, typical questions are, are face masks going to be required in our classes? Will we be wearing them across campus? Are the general student body, are they going to be tested? I mean, it's amazing how savvy these young men and women are, and how concerned they are for their own health. And they appreciate the protocols we've put in place, and they wish that the general student body would be required to do the same. Of course, our school couldn't test everybody every week.
Sure.
In the general student body. So I've just let them know that's not going to happen, and that they need to distance and wear their mask, and just be as safe and healthy as possible.
I'm curious, with what we've seen going on this summer, we've seen really kind of a revolution in terms of college athletes understanding they have a voice, and that they can actually make some demands over what treatment they get and how their work environment is. I've been curious, at the FCS level, you don't really see that as much. The money is not really the same. We're not talking about billions of dollars that the players are talking about wanting to share revenue in. But what has it been like watching this and watching these student athletes be able to understand that now they have a platform and they have a voice?
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. And we've all sat back and watched those coaches' salaries get larger and larger in the Power Five, and it's not happening here in the FCS. So I think if I was a student athlete, I'd have those questions as well in the Power Five. It's been interesting to watch, and we've had conversations with our folks at our level, and they understand our budget is not even 10% of many of those Power Five budgets. So it's just not the same here. And I feel for our students, and I feel for those Power Five students as well. And they have become more vocal, and their voices mattered a lot more. Certainly, really since COVID, it's made a difference. And with social justice and those active roles, we better be listening, because we need our students, because that's why we're here.
Yeah, absolutely. Talking to Brad Teague, athletic director at Central Arkansas. All right, so we hear the Southland is developing a spring conference schedule. It's going to be truncated. It will not be a full conference slate, but it's going to be a few games within that springtime. SWAC has already come out with theirs. We've already heard Stephen F. Austin has decided to opt out. With playing a full fall schedule, does that mean y'all are also opting out of spring?
Yeah, it goes back to the first question we had about just playing too much. I mean, there needs to be a break for student athletes emotionally, mentally, physically. And so, yeah, we would not intend to play in the spring. Let's say we get one game in the fall and everything shuts down, and, the SEC decides they're not going to play. That would shut everybody down pretty much. We'd probably reconsider what we were doing in the spring. If you only play one game in the fall, maybe there is an opportunity. But I still go back to, if you play in the spring of 2021 and then you play again in the fall of 2021, that's a lot of competitions in a short amount of time. And what happens if your quarterback or anybody blows out a knee in the first game of the spring? They're going to lose 2 years of competition on that one injury. So you just need time for healing and time for recuperating, and I'm just not sure that's best for anybody.
I'm curious, what conversations do you and the conference office at large, how much are y'all in talks with the Power Five leagues? As you mentioned, if the SEC pulls the plug, chances are everybody's pulling the plug Is that a dialogue that exists between the FCS leagues, the FBS leagues, you and other ADs within the Power Five? What are those conversations like, or if there are any at all?
No, there's not really any. I think that our commissioner, Tom Burnett, has spoken to in his meetings with some Power Five commissioners, and then of course he knows Greg Sankey of the
Sure.
SEC pretty well since he was in our conference at one time, as you know, and we just wait and see, really, Patrick. I mean, there's not any dialogue. They're not giving us insight on how long it's going to take for them to make a decision. We read the clips just like you do, from across the country. So, no, nobody's giving us any insight on what's happening. But I can assure you, if the Power Fives aren't playing, there's no reason for us to play. Yeah,
I would tend to agree. All right, finally, Brad, and thank you so much for your time. Really do appreciate it. Just give us an idea of kind of going back to what we started with. Why to you is it important to field a fall football season, a fall volleyball season, soccer, all of those? Why is it important to you for those kids to be out there and playing this fall?
Yeah, sure. So again, it's a fall sport. I think we need to play, if we can do it safely with our COVID protocols. I think we need to play our fall sports in the fall and then let them have their time off in the springs. I mean, certainly we still have a spring workout period for all sports, but it's not the same as playing, a modified schedule of competition. So I think that it's important especially for our seniors, to have their senior season in the fall, because many will graduate in December and will want to move on with their lives. And then we have several who have professional aspirations and wouldn't be available in the spring either. So as much as we can, we want to try to have a normal fall for our students, and that's what they've asked us to do, so we're going to try our best.
Well, and one of the reasons why, and I've harped a lot, Brad, on trying to care for these kids that don't get paid and don't necessarily have their own voice in their working conditions, and I harp on that a lot, and not the professional leagues, because they're amateurs. But I also know that guys like you really do have the best interest of their kids at heart. You're going to protect the kids over everything else. I don't know that at the Power 5 level, the presidents and the ADs of some of these big universities where there's huge money and television at stake. So to me, I don't mind as much that you're doing it, because I know you and I know where your heart is. I just worry about the guys at the top levels, because I think sometimes they're trying to get that money back from television contracts, and I don't necessarily know they have the kids' best interest at heart.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And
I hope they do.
Yeah, I do. Yeah. I do too. And I think 99% of administrators do, but just sometimes when that amount of money gets involved, you just don't know. That's, again, why I don't mind that y'all are doing it or attempting to do it, because I know who you are, and I know that you're going to be looking out for the best interest of your kids. Brad, thank you so much for your time, man. We really do appreciate it. Y'all continue to stay safe up there. Please be careful, and I hope to be able to watch a little bit of y'all in the fall.
Thank you, Patrick. We'll be on August 29th at 7 p.m. ESPN, so take a look.
Beautiful. It's Brad Teague, Athletic Director for Central Arkansas.